How you release this golf club matters. What happens to the club after you've hit the ball will play a large part in how the golf ball flies, both in terms of its direction and its trajectory. And yet this topic of release often gets misunderstood. Today, I'm going to discuss three very different, very distinctive releases that all have their own pros and cons, how you can use them in your practice and how to identify which release you need in order to improve your game the most. Release number one is going to be described as the longest, widest arc follow through. The widest arc refers to the fact that my hands and club are as far away from me as possible when my arms are parallel to the ground. Creating this long, wide arc follow through has a number of benefits, but also a couple of drawbacks. Let's start with the benefits, which hopefully by now, if you've watched my channel for any length of time, are fairly obvious. We're talking about radius management. Managing the radius of this swing so that the quality and the consistency of your contact can be as reliable and predictable as possible. Meaning if the arms stay as straight as they can for as long as they can, the arc of this swing remains intact from the most amount of time. So the quality of my contact and the predictability of my contact should be the most reliable with a follow through that has the longest, widest arc, keeping the structure in the arms, the wrists and the club for as long as possible into the follow through. And the most extreme version of this would be where the arms and club reach parallel with the ground at the same time. That means there's no real release of this club at all. Not yet anyway. We're keeping the arc as long and as wide as possible. That would give me the best chance of making consistent contact, but the drawback to this type of release would be that it would reduce the energy transfer that I can get into the ball. So it wouldn't be the most powerful way to hit the ball. A great example of a PGA Tour player who adopted this type of release would be Zach Johnson. Zach Johnson was renowned for being an extremely consistent player, won many times on tour, including multiple majors, and yet he was never known for hitting the ball particularly far. He was one of the shortest hitters on tour. So Zach Johnson utilized the longest, widest arc follow through in his swing, which made him very consistent, but as I say, didn't make him the longest hitter. You'd want to try and implement this type of release into your swing if you struggle to make consistent contact, because contact is really the first fundamental. Hitting the ball first and the ground second is really what makes a good golfer. That ball's flown out there beautifully, very powerful strike. Contact was beautiful, distance was decent, but the flight of the ball was a little bit down. And if you don't swing particularly fast, the wide arc follow through, you're going to see that your ball flight tends to be a little bit low. So that's the first release, the release where we have the widest arc for the most sustainable, repeatable, predictable radius management, keeping the arms and the club intact. But it comes with the caveat of less transfer of power or energy into the ball and a lower ball flight or trajectory. Release number two would be a place where a lot of professional golfers live, particularly with the majority of their swings, their iron swings, where they reach this point of extension but have a recocking or rehinging of the wrists that gets the club somewhere into this L-shaped position in the follow through. The reason that a lot of people struggle with the release in general is that the speed at which you swing and the forces that play through the swing and through impact are trying to throw and roll this club past your hands. The weight of the club in the downswing is such that you really have to be quite strong to hold on to these forces. And as you let them go, there can be a loss of control in many cases for a lot of you when you swing faster. So knowing how to control those forces and where to direct that force in the follow through is quite key. As we try to move to release number two, which is going to have the added benefit of transferring more momentum or more power into the shot and beginning to increase the trajectory or the height of the shot. As we do that, we need to know exactly how to direct our force in the follow through. And that doesn't mean that you just let this club go. That's often what I see. People try to swing faster, having established some quite nice contact and radius management with the shorter long arc follow through, release number one that we spoke about already. And as they move to release number two, they don't quite know how to do it. So they just let this club roll and go further, and they lose not only the contact, but also the directional control of their shots. They don't know what direction this ball's going to fly. So there's a very specific way to move into release number 2. As you hit the ball and keep the arms straight, just as you would do in release number 1, you start to rehinge or hinge upwards your wrists towards the sky. So as the club's going around me, I'm hinging the wrist up. That's a very important distinction, and it slows down and reduces the golfer's propensity to just allow the club to get thrown away from them, whereas I've already said you lose the control. So as you hit for release number 2, there's a combination of some of release number 1's wide arc and radius management, while at the same time hinging the wrists up to finish with more of this L-shaped follow through. As I say, it's going to give you a little bit more speed transfer, and the ball is also going to fly higher. No doubt about it, that ball's flown 50% higher. It's carried a little bit further as well. So more energy transfer into the ball. Still managed to control my radius because I've done enough practice of release number 1 to know what those extended pieces feel like. I can now start to add in some more sophistication, some more complexness, if you like, to the follow through to start to get some of the benefits of the added speed and the added height. And release number 3 would take the pros and cons of release number 1 and pretty much flip them on their head. So if you remember, release number 1, the wide arc radius management release, gave us the most predictable contact, but the least transfer of energy and the lowest trajectory. So release number 3 is going to give us the highest trajectory, the most amount of speed transfer into the ball, but it's going to make the contact part of this equation the most fleeting. It's more difficult to have that consistent contact unless your skill level has been trained to a point where you really have that contact piece on lockdown. That's why I spend so much of my time helping people to improve their contact, because it's really the quality and the consistency of a golfer's contact that's too fleeting. They don't have the skill to manage the radius. However, if you've worked your way through release number 1 into release number 2 with the wrists hinging back up, release number 3 is going to have both of those pieces as well as the elbows flexing to allow the hands and the club to finish further around the golfer. That's the part that adds the extra transfer of the energy into the ball, the extra speed. It's going to propel this ball even higher into the air. This type of follow through you'd certainly see more often in a longer club, particularly a driver. We don't really see golfers, even professional golfers, having short finishes with the driver, and that's because the force in a driver swing is the greatest. It's the longest shaft, it's the club that's swung with the most speed, and as a consequence of that, that force has to be directed somewhere. For most of you watching this, that extra speed and extra force becomes even more difficult to manage, and that club ends up going wherever it wants to, and as a result, so does the ball. So you want to work your way up, even with the driver, from release number 1, release number 2, and into release number 3, where we go from this L-shaped follow through with the arms straight and the wrist rehinged to a point where we allow those arms and elbows to keep moving the club around me. As I say, fastest swing, highest flight, but it makes contact the least predictable. So, just as I described, that is the highest flight by some distance. That's double the height of release number 1. It's gone the furthest by some 10 to 20 yards. This is a 7-iron. I've added some serious carry to that last shot, and I was able to make good contact. And of course, you'll see great players, the best players, very rarely making the contact error. So you see them changing their release pattern to suit the shot that they're trying to hit. Unfortunately, not everyone watching this video has the luxury of being able to change up their release pattern because their contact is too fleeting. How could you practice these 3 releases using one specific training aid that would help you to master all 3 of them and build up from release number 1 all the way through to release number 3? That training aid would be the Precision Impact Training Aid from Pure Swing Golf. This is a device that attaches to the trail arm and allows you to learn the correct feeling of trail wrist extension. As you bend that trail wrist back, it locks this into place which means you can hit balls maintaining that full, long, wide extension that we talked about, the long, wide arc follow through of release number 1. But because of the way it also is designed where it can hinge up and down, you can start to add in the hinging radial deviation pieces that we spoke about for releases number 2 and 3. Meaning as you come through, you're learning to manage the forces of this swing with the wide arc, long arm follow through. But as you let this club release, it actually releases up as it should do, as opposed to releasing over and rolling like it will do if you don't have control of those forces. That's exactly where most of you spend your time without even realizing it. This golf club is being flung through impact with no controlling of the forces, and the club is rolling over, losing all sorts of club face control, directional control, and of course at the same time losing that contact consistency. So the trail wrist bend that I'm teaching you to feel and understand here gets trained in with the precision impact. As you swing back, the training device locks into place and means you can swing down towards the ball, maintaining that necessary shaft lean. Remember that the arm's straight and the shaft lean is the radius management, and you can start out hitting balls with that widest, longest arc follow through. Doesn't get any better than that from a contact point of view. Every time I put this device on my wrist, it helps me to manage my follow through, my impact and my follow through via this maintain condition here of the trail wrist extension. It's a part of my swing that I struggle with, where I just let this club go too easily. So having a sensation of what it's like for this wrist to be kept in place, and then for the corresponding movements of my body to start working correctly, I get perfect contact every single time using this. Now again, that had all of the attributes of release number 1. Great contact, very, very good ball flight in terms of piercing and penetrating, but a little bit on the low side, and that ball definitely didn't fly as far as it could have done. So how could I then take this device and work my way up to release number 2? So as I already touched on, what usually happens as you swing faster is there's no control of where this club goes in the follow through. The forces just pull the club and it goes wherever it wants to. The benefit of having the device on here is that as you bend the wrist back, lock it into place, but then increase the speed of the swing, as that momentum gets thrown into the follow through, instead of the wrist being able to release and roll over as many of you will think the release was supposed to be, the wrist will work up, just as I described in release number 2, as the arms and the club extend to a point where there's too much momentum for them to hold on. The rest of the release will start to work up. This wrist works up and down. It doesn't work in this forward and backward motion that would be so familiar to too many of you. So essentially what you do with this device, is why it's so great, is you just lengthen and increase the speed of the swing, and the device itself will start to teach you that release pattern in the follow through. The up part will happen automatically because the wrist can't release in the other plane of motion. It's locked in. So we're going to lock it in the backswing, hit down hard and through the ball, and as I increase the speed, the wrist will begin to rehinge automatically into release number 2. And there it is. Higher, push, draw, much further, still good contact, and the release was more up into release pattern number 2, because the wrist isn't allowed to release too quickly. It isn't allowed to just flip. Okay, any of you who struggle with flipping will know what I'm talking about. This device reduces and effectively eliminates flipping while training the correct wrist release in the follow through. And we can move all the way to release number 3 with this device. And as I just take this away from my hand for a second, hopefully you'll start to understand that this longer swing is not this release in this sense. It's not this flipping of the wrist that maybe many of you believe it to be. I can make a full follow through, complete follow through at full speed without ever letting that wrist flip. So I can lock it into place, I can make a full backswing, follow through all the way to the end here, and I've only worked on releasing this wrist up. I haven't let it roll and get it thrown around. That's where you're getting this wrong. So with the aid attached to my trail arm, I can increase the force, the speed in my swing, knowing that this is going to lock me in place, and I've got the control of the club face on lockdown. Now I can swing fast, still get great contact, but hopefully get the other benefits now of greater height and greater distance. And there's the full one to finish with. High, tiny little draw. Again, making the understanding here that you don't need to roll the club to draw it. That ball was a perfect push draw, and that's gone full distance. So you can work your way through these different release patterns, starting out with release number 1 and getting good at it, and then gradually adding the speed now that you have the understanding of how to take yourself and progress through the different levels. Release number 1 to 2 and all the way to 3. Understanding that as you go, you may lose some of the contact quality, and that's the trade-off that you're starting to get towards moving towards more distance. If you want to learn more about the Precision Impact Training Aid, I'm going to put a link down in the description where you can get a massive discount off this product if you want to give it a try. It's something that I use every day on my lesson tee with students to help them understand this sensation of trail wrist extension. It really is one of the secrets to great golf. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you found today's video useful and valuable. And if you did, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're new. If you'd like to get the first video of my brand new video series, the Tour Quality Ball Striking series, for free, then just comment down below and I'll make sure I pop the link there for you to check it out. This is a brand new video series that's going to be available within the coming days. If you'd like to see the first video before anybody else, pop a comment down below and I'll send you the link. And if you're ready to learn more about the trail wrist extension secret that I talked about in today's video, I've got 2 videos for you to go and watch next. The first one is the flying wedge drill. It describes the angle between the trail forearm and the shaft, which you see managed and maintained so well by the game's best ball strikers. Or you can go and check out this one, which is also on the release, which we discussed today, but it's from a very unusual camera angle that you maybe have never seen before.